Welcome to another Pencast. This one is on exchange rates. I'll break the presentation up into 3 or 4 parts. Alright, so what is an exchange rate? Well, the exchange rate is the price of one currency in terms of another. So, price of one currency in terms of another. Well, that seems fairly straightforward, so let's put it to the test. So here we go. What we can say is that 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.75 Australian dollars. Now, what I'm doing is I'm using a 3-letter coding system. Each country around the world will have its own unique 3-letter code for its currency. What I'm looking for is I'm just looking for my calculator. Here it is here. I'll need that, and you'll need yours as well. I'm using my mobile phone. I much prefer it. Alright, okay. Now, look, what I want you to see is that we can express this exchange rate. This is a nominal bilateral exchange rate, if I'm going to get real technical, but I don't expect you to be there. What we can do, instead of expressing it from the New Zealand perspective, which is this way, what we can do is we can express it from the Australian perspective. So how are we going to do that? Well, what we want to do is we want to divide by 0.75. So that's going to give us 1 Australian dollar. Now, what we do to one side, we must also do to the other side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is divide by 0.75 here, and when you do that calculation, what you should end up with is 1.33 New Zealand dollars. So what I want to say to you is that both of these exchange rates are equivalent, aren't they? They're just looking at the exchange rate from different perspectives. This one here is looking at it from the New Zealand perspective. This one here is looking from the Australian perspective. Okay, so let's just change the page. Right, if I say to you 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.65 US dollars, can you change the perspective? Can you flip the exchange rate around the other way so that 1 US dollar equals so many New Zealand dollars? I'll just give you a moment to do that. And you should have come up with this exchange rate. 1 US dollar equals 1.53 approximately New Zealand dollars. Okay, so what's the situation in New Zealand? Well, we have what's called a floating exchange rate regime. That means that the value of our currency is determined by market forces. So what I'm saying to you is that the forces of supply and demand come into play. All right. So if we have supply and demand operating, does it mean we have a market? Well, yes, most definitely we do. We have a free market, and I can illustrate that for you. So here's the market. This will be the quantity of New Zealand dollars. We don't really ever specify the quantities. We just know that represents the volume of New Zealand dollars. And so what we have here is we have the supply of the New Zealand dollar, and we have the demand of the New Zealand dollar. So sometimes what I do to get a handle on this is I just put here, this is the seller of New Zealand dollars, this is the buyer of New Zealand dollars. So people would normally be sellers if they wish to buy imports, and buyers if they wish exports. That makes sense, doesn't it? All right. Okay, so what needs to go up here? Well, look, we'll stay with nominal bilateral, right, that word up here. It just means between two countries. Bilateral exchange rate, and we'll say that up here we've got the, this is 1 New Zealand dollar, or 1 New Zealand dollar can be exchanged for so many US dollars. So we've got US dollars up here. Alright, so I'm just going to take a step just to put a value in here, and I'm going to say 0.7. So at the moment we've got an equilibrium exchange rate, haven't we? And that 1 New Zealand dollar can be exchanged for 0.7 of a US dollar. Yeah, that's okay. Right, well, just turning the page again. Now what I need to do is I need to introduce a couple of words to you that signify that we're dealing with a floating exchange rate regime. And these words here are appreciation and depreciation. Alright, so look, if 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.7 US dollars at time 1, and 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.8 US dollars at time 2, then can you see what's happened is that the New Zealand dollar now buys more US dollars. The New Zealand dollar has gained in value. So we say that the New Zealand dollar has appreciated. Over this time interval, the New Zealand dollar has appreciated. Okay, what about depreciation? Well, look, let's go back here. 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.7 US dollars at T1. Yep, that's okay. 1 New Zealand dollar equals 0.6 US dollars at T2. Can you see what's happened over time? The New Zealand dollar now buys less US dollars, doesn't it? The New Zealand dollar has lost value against the US dollar, and so we talk about depreciation. All right, well, look, let's go back to our little market model. What I'll do is I'll divide the page in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate an appreciation here. I'm going to model an appreciation of the New Zealand dollar. So here we go, here. Supply of New Zealand dollars. Demand New Zealand dollars. Right, let's say we're here at, so how would I label this axis? Well, my convention is one that I hope you will follow. I'll go 1 New Zealand dollar equals question mark so many US dollars. That's how I label that axis. And so I'm going to make that currently 0.7. Now, if there's a really strong demand for the New Zealand dollar, what have we got to do? Yeah, we've got to apply a shift, don't we? Here it is here. So the demand curve has shifted from here to here, and so we've got a new equilibrium exchange rate. I'm going to just make it 0.8. And when we compare the two exchange rates, we see that the New Zealand dollar is buying more US dollars. We've got an appreciation. Okay, what about a depreciation? Yeah, okay, so let's just go and have a look at that. Alright, so just set our market model up again. Now I'm going to put here supply, I'm going to put here demand. I'm going to assume that you know that it's New Zealand dollars. New Zealand dollars. New Zealand dollars, alright. And what we've got down here is the quantity of New Zealand dollars, and what's going to be up on our y-axis as a label, I'm going to say 1 New Zealand dollar equals so many US dollars. Alright, and so I'm going to give a value here. I'm going to call that 0.7. Now, what happens if the demand for the New Zealand dollar decreases? And we'll discuss reasons for that happening later. Well, you know what we have to do. We have to shift the demand curve back this way. So we've got a new equilibrium exchange rate. Let's go in and give it a value. I might make it 0.6. And so what we can see over that time period is that the New Zealand dollar has lost value, hasn't it? It used to buy 70 cents US, and now $1 New Zealand only buys 60 cents. There's been a loss of value, so we can talk about depreciation. Alright, well, I don't think there's anything difficult so far, do you? It's all pretty straightforward. Alright, well look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just teach you the flip technique. To be really good at doing exchange rate calculations, basically you need to be doing them every day, and I'm just introducing you to them, so let's see if I can make it easy for you.